Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. And a 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packard, J. King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Daddy's always halfway there.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's interweb. I am Sam Jan Packard, joined by Brian B. Robb from MassLive.com. Producer Sean's also here, and we got Jay King, embedded reporter, deep from the bowels of the Pfizer Forum, where he watched the Celtics defeat the Milwaukee Bucks today. This is the free episode of Still Poddable. That means we are live on the CLNS YouTube page and brought to you by Prize Picks in the Game Time app. If you want to save money on those fine products, use the promo code CLNS. This is the weekly show, so let's go back over the week that was. The Celtics are 3-1. They had a win against the Hawks, a loss against the Warriors in a very entertaining game, a win against the Nets, and then say another entertaining game, and then finally a win against the Bucks today in the afternoon. It's been a long day for Jay King, but you're live on the scene. You saw it in person, and we'll go to you first. What were your impressions from the Celtics' performance today in Milwaukee?
If Jaylen thinks Giannis is a child, what would he think of Packard? A baby? An infant? An embryo? I don't know. I thought the Celtics just kind of won on a night that they didn't really have their best offensive stuff. They shot 40.7%, which was their second worst mark of the season. Their offensive rating was 115, which is their third worst of the season. They got down 16-2. Taurean Prince hit some nonsense. Giannis hit his first three of the year. Joe Mazzulla said that the Bucks scored 14 points more than expected in the first half based on their shot quality. And Celtics just kind of stayed steady, weathered through it, and just they're just a better team. And they give themselves more chances to win. And, they just kept playing, had a big third quarter run. And, Jaylen flagrant fouls Giannis with 6 minutes, 52 seconds left. Bucks take a lead, and the Celtics just kind of controlled everything from there. I thought the Bucks would be more of a challenger in the East, but they do not look like one so far at all.
Pull the plug. I know we're 10 games into the season of the Bucks, but I know Chris Middleton hasn't played.
Trade Giannis?
Trade
Giannis?
You don't trade Giannis. You try to trade everyone else but Giannis. You send Lillard to Miami for whatever salary matches. Get Terry Rozier and a couple other Miami role players in there over Lillard right now around Giannis, because that's not like the amount that they went at Giannis, at Lillard, Jay, throughout that game, but particularly down the stretch. It's like, I don't know, Kemba 2.0 in Boston of having a target on your back defensively. And he's just not, as we've seen of guards in their 30s, he's just not, doing enough offensively to make up for that now. And it's leaving the Bucks where not only is he bad, but the supporting cast around him just isn't good enough.
It's been Doc Rivers brought up a bunch of stats before the game about how bad they've been at points in the paint and drives, and he's like, and we have Giannis, so he's like, that shouldn't happen. But basically, he blamed a lot of it on their defense, which gives up buckets. And when you're in the half court, you're not going to be getting into the paint. You're not going to be driving. You're not going to be able to be as functional as you should be offensively. I didn't think their problems were really defensively tonight. I guess they did have some issues though, just preventing 3-pointers. I know that's a big thing for them against the Celtics, and Celtics shot 50-something of them. And they got to the line. Like B-Rob said, they hunted Damian Lillard for much of the second half and did a great job with that. And like the margins that Joe Mazzulla talks about all the time, Celtics took more shots. They took more three-point attempts. They took more free throw attempts. And when you do that, it's going to be really hard to beat you, even if you have a good shooting night like the Bucks did against Boston today.
I thought the Celtics did a pretty good job down the stretch of just obviously exploiting Damian Lillard, but the play that stuck out to me was just that excellent play with like the ball movement where it was like drive kick, and then Tatum was there on the wing for the open three. But that was a weird one because Giannis is like leaving Tatum to go help when Brook Lopez is basically right there in great guarding position. And that kind of feels emblematic of the Bucks' struggles on defense where there was no reason to be helping off Jason Tatum there. And it's just weird that Giannis was dubbed the most versatile defender in the league. But I think the Celtics just did a pretty solid job of staying through it. For some reason, they're really struggling in I guess, the first quarter over this last week. I don't know exactly why that is. But
the second straight game, they've fallen behind 16-2. That's wild. And won both games, but still.
And they really struggled in the first half against the Warriors on defense. And I think that brings me to the thing I wanted to talk about the most. I don't think the Bucks have necessarily the personnel to have done this, but is there a formula for, I guess, slowing down this Celtics offense? Because it feels like the Warriors came out and played extremely physical and were really pressing up against the Celtics and slowed them down in that first half. It felt like the Nets played an extremely physical game and tried to kind of just pressure the Celtics constantly. Obviously, the Bucks don't have the people to personnel to kind of do that. But is that kind of the one thing that can slow down this, I guess, historic Celtics offense?
That's what you have to try to do, especially without Kristaps Porzingis. Like, if you're going to switch a lot, if you're going to pressure them, sometimes they just dump it into Porzingis and have him score 1.3 points per possession in the post, and then you're screwed no matter what. I think they didn't handle the physicality well against Golden State. The Nets game, that start was weird because Xavier Tillman started next to Al Horford. I think we can all agree that's not the Celtics' best offensive front court. And I thought they paid the price for that early. And then I think some of it is just like expected points. Like I thought they actually got some really good shots against Brooklyn, didn't always hit them. The Golden State game, turnovers were a real issue at the start, but for those last two and a half quarters, they just kind of diced the Warriors up and got whatever looks they wanted. Didn't end up closing out that game, but I thought from that point on, they just really handled it all well. So that's what you try to do against the Celtics. Can you do it all the time? I don't think so, especially now that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have just gotten more physical and able to play through contact and kind of able to handle all the shenanigans that teams try against them.
Yeah, I wonder how much different, like Jaylen against the Warriors than Nets in those games. Like, it's a lot tougher to do that when you got to do that against. Cause I think Jaylen, more than anyone on this team, handles that sort of contact pretty well, and makes teams pay for that. What did you guys think of how he looked today in general, coming off that injury, and just the response? Like you can talk about the post game stuff, Jay, with Giannis there, and just the flagrant foul in the fourth of a close game. I honestly kind of liked it from Jay. It's like, I mean, that's kind of the no nonsense he's been for a while now, but for him to do it in that spot and just, I think, own Giannis after the fact was, I thought, good on Jaylen, I think.
So do we think he was definitely pissed at Giannis? Do we think that was definitely him being pissed off, or was he just like, he was a child, man? Like that was childish. Because it was.
That's what I was asking you.
What's your take?
Slight, or was him just being like, Giannis is just like an earnest young man who just like likes to have fun and do the too slow thing. Like I saw the question where you asked him the question on the video, and I was like, I had no idea what tone Jaylen was trying to say, because it seemed like he was pretty upset by the elbow to the face. But like, was he actually upset about the handshake too slow move?
I couldn't tell. I really couldn't tell. I wasn't sure if he was or he was just like, that was childish. It was kind of a hilarious time to pull off that move by Giannis because he had just hit him with an elbow to the face. And then he does the like hit me high, hit me medium, hit me low, you're too slow move, which is like classic uncle move. I do that as an uncle all the time. Like that's my go-to move to make little kids laugh
or cry.
Yeah, I feel like normally they laugh that one. Kids love that shit for some reason.
Children love to be deceived or lied to. It's the classic little kid move.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and so
I feel like if Jaylen was not mad, he would have said something like, "Giannis is just a big kid." I don't know, something about like he's a child. I'm like, he knows what that quote looks like. Like he's not happy. For me, that's how I took it. And like the foul later, I was like, hell yeah, do it.
So we were talking about it in the media room after, and one of the other writers who was there said it almost sounded like not like he was pissed, but that he was like, what was that? I just can't believe he did that almost. I could not believe he pulled that move in the middle of a game after an offensive foul to Jaylen Brown's face. I've never seen that move in an NBA game before. It was so funny. It was so funny. And I understand if Jaylen Brown did not find it funny, because I wouldn't have found it funny if someone did that to me after hitting me in the face.
Elbow to the jaw. It's ridiculous.
But that was an absolutely hilarious move to pull up.
Do we think Giannis is malicious? Like when I think he's like throws shoulders like that, I think that's just like him being a giant individual. But it's insane if he was intentionally throwing an elbow and then followed it up with the too slow, because you don't see players like on opposing teams just slapping five when you're making your way down the court ever. To even offer the high five in that scenario is diabolical. And this is when Giannis, he had a phenomenal first half, 27 points in the first half, and just really wasn't the same in the second half. But they really slowed the Bucks down there, and Jaylen's the only one on the team who would fight anyone. Like I can't imagine anyone else on the roster getting in sort of on-court fisticuffs other than Jaylen or Joe Mazzulla.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. I highly recommend picking Payton Pritchard overs. That is the real moneymaker this season. And with Prize Picks, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And so when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Pick now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposit and withdrawals into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play only $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts a selected projected lineup up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. It's a lot of fun this NBA season. Again, I'm highly recommending you go with the Payton Pritchard overs. And if you want to do that today and save a little with Prize Picks, download the app, use code CLNS, and you get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5. Prize Picks, run your game.
I feel like Jaylen turned totally no nonsense last season. He almost embraced being the Celtics enforcer, because they didn't have that for a while. It was like, and I don't want to be one of those people who's like, you need to shove people and you need to fight people to win.
You gotta have one of those guys.
But I think you need
Yeah,
to
someone
stand
like
up for
that.
yourself. You need to stand up for yourselves. You need to have attitude. You need to have an energy. And I think Joe helped Jaylen unlock that. But I think Jaylen also just decided, I'm going to be the guy who doesn't put up with shit. It's been the way he's approached the last 2 seasons when Grant Williams shoved Jason Tatum or shouldered Jason Tatum, tackled Jason Tatum, whatever you want to call it. Jaylen Brown was right there to stand over Grant and let him know that wasn't going to happen against the Celtics. It always seems to be Jaylen involved in that stuff. And I think he just gives them an edge that they need, that they don't have without him. You know, Tatum's never going to really get involved with stuff like that. Drew Holiday and Derek White are just like the lowest maintenance great players in the NBA. Al Horford, same thing. You're never going to get any of that with those guys. Though Al, I guess, has had a couple moments in his career like that, especially in the playoffs.
With Giannis.
But Jaylen is the one who's willing to jaw with people. Jaylen is the one who just ramps up the intensity when they need it. And it's not the most important thing, but I feel like that's very important. And it's just become one of his roles for the Celtics over the last couple of years.
It's just like,
And I think
go ahead, Packard.
go ahead, B-Rob. No,
No, I mean, like
go ahead.
with Giannis over the years, it's just like he's done borderline dirty shit like this a lot against this team. There's a long track record here, going back to playoff series. He did the shit with Tatum in the third quarter with the ankle to like kind of pound on. I know that was before like the handshake thing, but like for after the game, it's like Jay's like, yeah, if you want to be cool about it, it's fine, but don't act like we're friends. Like we're not friendly enough for you to like pull shit like that in the middle of the game after you elbow me in the face. And so I think again, and then Jaylen got his payback of it in the game when he got to wind up in that fourth quarter for the flagrant foul where he's like, okay, I want to foul him here, but you know what? I'm gonna like put something extra on this because screw you, Giannis. And that's I think to Jay's point, that's a good edge for him to have because no one on this team is going to do that. But I think that's important, especially when they have the targets on their back this year, just like to send that message around the league when people try to pull this kind of stuff.
And I feel like the toughness there's like the intangible like toughness of just like you need someone standing up for the team. And I feel like Jaylen has stepped up in the absence of like Marcus Smart normally being that type of person. But I just think in terms of defensive intensity, like we saw Jaylen in this game against the Bucks picking up Dame full court. And I just thought it was like the fourth quarter of tonight's game just showed you how good the Celtics defense can be. And it really focused around Drew Holiday. But like Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown just like easily switching Dame Giannis pick and rolls. Like that is supposed to be one of the most unguardable things just because of the size of those two players. But like I just thought the Celtics handled those two very dynamic players. And basically when they had their starters out there, really could do anything. And I really thought it started with Jaylen being the guy, like the point of attack defense, just like ball denial. Like there are certain times where they're trying to get the ball to Dame and Jaylen was making it super difficult. But then they run that pick and roll with Giannis and Drew just pops out to him. And it's just not an issue for Jaylen to go and follow Giannis. And so I was just pretty impressed with the kind of defensive intensity that we saw from the Celtics down the stretch here in Milwaukee. And I think that's something that was definitely lacking down the stretch of the game against the Warriors where they didn't get a stop for the final 6 minutes.
And I think that's a promising sign from Jaylen in his return from hip issues. He said today he didn't feel totally right, but wanted to give it a go against the Bucks. He said he wanted the Lillard challenge and he wanted to mentally lock in against Lillard and just kind of get back in that zone of just high level competition. And to come back from a 4-game absence, I know it's not the longest absence, but to come back from that and be able to pressure up full court and help hold Lillard to 4 for 15 shooting and spend time on Giannis. He had one play where he was just like super physical against Giannis in the post. And I thought he could have gotten a foul called on him like 5 times on that play, but it was Giannis, so the refs let it go. I just thought Jaylen, like he came back sharp and he came back hustling. It wasn't his cleanest game offensively. I didn't always love his decision making, though he had some nice plays. But you're not too concerned about that. It's more about how does he look physically, and I thought he looked pretty good.
All right, folks, the time has come. We got to have the Neemi discussion. I've been on the record as a Queta hater.
We had people unsubscribe to the podcast because you're too much of a Queta hater.
How do you know this? Prove your.
Because the guy left a comment on our podcast page saying he quit because you hate Queta, and then he quit. We saw the record of it. He sure enough he delivered on his promise. And
come back, Paul. Please,
he canceled his membership.
Paul, I don't know what to tell you about that one. Like,
what did you say?
I have my theory. I'm just relaying my thoughts. Queta wasn't good tonight. Queta is still consistently gets lost defensively. Queta still doesn't necessarily know how to box out. He's very tall.
He was fine. He was fine tonight. Like,
there was like 5 or 6 plays where he was just like not where he was supposed to be on pick and roll coverage, and they gave up easy buckets because he doesn't.
Joe did let him have it after one of them. I think when Connaughton drew the 2 free throws, Joe was not happy with Queta. I believe on his positioning, though I'm not entirely sure what Joe was ticked off about.
I thought he did okay. I mean, I believe that. I thought he did okay against Giannis a couple times.
Queta Kool-Aid.
No, I mean,
I get it.
But you hated on him after the Warriors game, right?
No, I mean, I critiqued him after the Warriors game. We did a whole segment about how good the Warriors like. Sure, well, I'm a Queta realist. Okay, I'm not like Joshua B. I'm not gonna say he needs to be starting. I think he's a excellent 4th center. He might even be the 3rd center if Luke Cornett continues to not play great basketball. But as soon as Kristaps Porzingis gets back in this lineup, I don't want to see Neemi anywhere near the court. Like he's very good because he at rebounding because he's quite tall. He is a lob threat. He does give them good things, but he's still, and I think it's important that he still plays because he could be better. But Scal was saying on the broadcast, I think on Friday night, that he's never seen someone improve this much in a 5-game performance. And I just think we're going a little bit far. I think people are very excited by the 7-foot guy who can do flashy dunks. I'm very proud of him. He no longer goaltends. That's good improvement. That's good stuff. But it's
what a
just
backhanded compliment.
We're getting ridiculous here.
Packard might be the biggest Queta hater left.
I mean, I would say he's maybe the 2nd most important bench player on the Celtics so far this season. Like, is that too much of a stretch? I'd say yes, because Hauser's been hurt and his shot has been off. I mean, Hauser's obviously 100 times better than Queta, but like, as far as a very small sample size, he's been pretty important, despite not matching Sam Packard's high expectations. But no, well, he still has work to do. I'll give you that, Packard. He's not the all-star that some people are making him out to be.
Packard, just say something nice about Queta right now so I can clip it and put it on social media. We can get these guys back.
He is doing the country of Portugal so proud. He is the finest basketball player to come from Portugal, and he has put that entire country on his back and has done more for Portugal than Cristiano Ronaldo. I'll say that.
Perfect. Thank you. That was great.
I think there's certain I understand getting hype about certain player but Payton Pritchard should be the one getting all the guy off the bench attention. And I know 6th man of the year, but he came out another 5 threes today. He's absurd. He's frankly, I didn't think he was going to be this good, but he, you know what, does it on both ends of the court. Now it feels like everything I say is just a backhanded slight against Neemi. I don't dislike Neemi. I'm just a Queta hater. There's nuance there, and you're gonna have to follow the nuance there with me. But
you're not a hater. You are just not on board with the overreactions that you see everywhere. I think if everyone else was just kind of normal about Neemi, you'd be high on him. But you see the reactions to him on Celtics Twitter. You see the reactions acting like he's an all-star, and you're kind of like Jay King a little bit. I am usually the resident hater on the podcast. I am the one who sees people overreacting and goes the other way. You are normally a lover of good fun, and Neemi brings a lot of good fun. He brings flashy dunks. He brings high-flying blocks. He has been so much better positionally than he ever was before, but you can't get over the reactions from other people. This isn't you. This isn't the most. Maybe this is corporate Packard coming out for the first time. This is honestly, it's not your brand. You are stepping into my lane and being a hater, and that's not you. You're supposed to be the cheery guy who loves good things, and Neemi is a good thing. You should love him. I'm with Paul.
This has been Paul. You unsubscribe, Jay.
Team Paul.
Paul, I'll pay for you to come back to the podcast. I'll buy you your subscription for the next couple months if you just give us another chance. And maybe Neemi will make me, reconsider all of this. It's an open situation. The case is still yet to be adjudicated. I'm just not ready to anoint him a starter or even a role player at this point. I think, to B-Rob's point, he has been quite useful, but I think the bigger story, if we're talking about Celtics big men here, is that he's getting so many minutes just because I don't think Kornet or Tillman have been very good this year. I think Kornet's had some good moments at passing, but Kornet has not been as effective in his minutes as I think the Celtics would have hoped.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then today, I think coming off the hamstring injury against Giannis, that's just obviously not a good combination for him. Yeah, it's the other guys haven't set a high bar for him to match. And so between that and the fact that he just gives them some athleticism in the front court that Tillman and Kornet, for all the things they do, they certainly don't do that. And the other thing is, Jay, like we have this Al Neemi front court, which saw some good minutes in the fourth quarter again today. It's a plus 14 net rating on the year there with that group in 7 games there. And it just seems like that's, if they want to go big defensively now, that's like the default, obviously, until Queta'ss comes back to maybe like take some onus off Al too.
Yeah.
Neemi was a -2 in the fourth quarter, if we're being accurate, though. Just got to put it up.
And Tillman's minutes so far have not been great. I thought that after he had a training camp, after he was with the Celtics for a while, after he had the shooting success in the preseason, that maybe he'd be able to find more of an offensive niche so that the team wasn't at a real deficit anytime he was on the court. And it just feels like so far he hasn't been able to find that. They haven't been able to find a rhythm with him. The slow start against the Nets, there was one play where he caught it in front of the Celtics bench and didn't shoot it, and it was just kind of a record scratch moment. Joe Mazzulla let him have it, told him to shoot the ball. Next time he caught the ball in the opposite corner, air ball. And it's like everyone else in the Celtics rotation who plays minutes is such a threat, and Tillman just isn't. And he can't finish well at the rim. He can't shoot well from outside. There's just it's been rough offensively from the time he got to Boston. And so Neemi allows them to kind of avoid that, gives them some of the switching. He actually, switched some onto Stephen Curry. Today he switched out to Damian Lillard a little bit. It was guarding him on the perimeter. So he gives you some of that, not as much as Tillman for sure, but also gives you the lob threat and the super athleticism and super length.
Yeah, at some point you're like, oh, maybe Tillman should go to the Kornet route and give up the 3, but then he can't finish at the rim to his point. So it's like that's the one thing he has a better chance of doing given his size and his, I think, athleticism. But yeah, it's tough going there. You hope he breaks out of it at some point. He's obviously still going to be useful for the switching defensively when those come up. But as far as the 82 game grind right now, day in and day out, Neemi's definitely the higher percentage play, and we're seeing it bear out. He's going to be playing 20+ minutes probably until KP comes back.
Basketball is back in the TD Garden, folks. and it is a perfect opportunity to get tickets to see the Celtics go for Banner 19. I know I'm going to miss being in that building, and so do it for me. Go to TD Garden or go to a whole sort of events going around in the Boston area or wherever you're listening to a podcast. The best way to do that is through the Game Time app. Game Time app is the best way to get tickets on the interwebs. You can get it for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. It's got all-in pricing and shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get seat views with panoramic views from where your seat will be in the app before you buy. There's a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you up to 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
So we're going to continue having the Neemi discussion. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. I'm rooting for Neemi. I'm always been a fan of all Portuguese athletes, except for a few guys in the Premier League I really don't like. Maybe I have anti-Portuguese bias that I need to address, some implicit bias here.
You just went from calling yourself a fan of all Portuguese athletes to then saying you have anti-Portuguese bias. Pick a side and stick with it. Paul is right.
I said it, and then I immediately thought of Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes in the Premier League. I was like, I don't like those guys. So then I had a moment of reflection, and so maybe I'm looking inward on that one. But we can't belabor this point too much. It is time to get excited about something else, though. On Tuesday, we got the NBA Cup. The Emirates NBA Cup, as everyone's going to refer to it as. In Group C, we have the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, who they play, the Chicago Bulls, the Washington Wizards, and I think the most interesting team in that group in terms of Celtics opponents, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jay, you don't strike me as much of a Cup guy, so I'm going to go to B-Rob. What's your anticipation for the NBA Cup? You're shaking your head too. You don't.
Pass this to Sean. Give this to Sean.
Let me step in. The Celtics in the locker room today were sort of making fun of the cup. I think they were like, ooh, next game is a cupper. That's a cupper. Like just kind of making fun of how the next game was an in-season tournament, and then they had a discussion about how bad of an idea it is to have an in-season tournament basketball, which is different from the regular season basketball. Which
are they doing that this year?
I guess they are. At least from that was what was thrown out there. So yeah, they are. They're not too thrilled about that. They don't think it's the greatest idea to have a new basketball.
That's crazy.
No, that can only create problems. That's like the only way to create a storyline is like, oh, all the players hate this new basketball. And I guess they'll probably sell some sort of promotion there. And it's a way to try to sell more merch, but that's an insane idea. That seems like a really, really bad idea. So
it's funny to do
kudos to the NBA for doing that.
The cash angle is like no one needs to even talk about it this year. Like that was all the buzz when it started. Be like, oh man, all this extra money in the line, and now that's just completely like fallen to the wayside. I feel like, and they did new courts again. They're not as crazy, but that's pretty much it. But the NBA got their money, they got their sponsors, so they're happy.
It's also wild too because the money went up. Like the prize money is even bigger this year. But you're right, like no one cares. I was gonna try and get really enthusiastic about the NBA Cup, but I just can't because it just pisses me off every time that they say like, oh, it's like in European soccer. It's like but it's not at all how any of the like side tournaments in soccer work. None of them are regular season games. It's a separate tournament altogether. You just also have another tournament. So I'm like, it's not like that. It's just regular season games with a banner. Did the Lakers hang a banner? Is it a banner for some teams? Like I'm like, yeah, it does. I don't get it. unless
Now
the
it's cup
Celtics
talk.
win
Another
it.
cupper.
I'm a big cup guy.
The Celtics win it, and I think it's the most important.
What is
improvement.
going on here?
I thought it was dumb
I'm a
last year
hater of
going
the
into it, and then it added more competition.
I do want to see Hackett Drummond again, like in some form.
Teams went after wins. Teams wanted to win. The Pacers treated it like it was the NBA championship. Like it was awesome. It brought fun. It made Tyrese Halliburton a star. He hasn't totally lived up to that sense, but he was fantastic during that run. I just think it's a way to bring excitement to a period of the NBA season where there isn't a lot of it.
What do you guys think the Celtics
I'm
do?
hating on players.
What do you guys think the
Go ahead,
Celtics do if they win? Actually, would they even raise a ban? Would they raise anything after winning a title with an NBA Cup? Would they even acknowledge it in the halls of the TD Garden?
Maybe like a different shaped banner, like a circular banner or a streamer
Banner
of some
No,
sorts.
no, you don't raise a banner for the in-season tournament.
No,
A plaque?
There's
Is there anything they're going to do a plaque in the
a
hallway?
plaque. I think a plaque in the hallway is absolutely what happens. And I
But
think NBC
like a
Sports must
plaque
have
where you could put like just a little strip for every year they win it. Like one plaque for every in-season tournament victory.
Yeah.
Not a different plaque for every.
I think it could
You
work.
can't give it that much respect.
But what if they? Oh, people. I would get excited about them in the cup. Like I did want them to win that Pacers game last year in the quarterfinals. So we'll see. We'll see. Before we get to segments, I do just want to bring up the fact that the Eastern Conference is absolute dog shit. There's only 2 teams above 500. That's pretty wild. There was a graphic going around recently, and it was just looking at like remaining strength of schedule, and the top 15 strength of schedule in terms of hardest schedule are all Western Conference teams, and the easiest schedules coming up are all Eastern Conference teams. Is this just going to be a competition between the Cavs and the Celtics for best team in the East for the rest of the year? Do we expect anyone to kind of like rise into that tier? Because we've talked a lot about the Bucks struggles. We talked about the Sixers struggles. The Knicks, who are supposed to be the biggest challengers, they're 4-4. They just lost to the Pacers. Pacers haven't been great. Magic just lost Paolo for a while. Like, is this just going to be another cakewalk to I guess a top 2 seed for the Celtics? Because is the East really this bad?
I don't think it's this bad. I think a lot of circumstances have led to some of the better teams cratering early on. Obviously, Embiid hasn't played yet. His presence alone just totally changes the 76ers. When he's out there, for as many games as he's out there, they're going to be formidable. Chris Middleton hasn't played yet for the Bucks, so they're really lucky. Those 2 teams specifically are really lucky that the rest of the East is in shambles, because they would be racking up a huge deficit right now while dropping tons of games early. Instead, they're only, a few games out of home court, which is crazy. And so they should be very excited that everybody, and then like Orlando with Paolo out there is a legitimate team. They're good. Cleveland has become potentially elite. They could win 60 plus games. They look fantastic so far. So it's kind of a different conference than I think a lot of people anticipated going into the season, where Cleveland is the second elite team, and the Sixers and Bucks, who I think a lot of people had a chance to become that, aren't even close to it so far.
Are you guys ready to roll? Like, I just don't. They could get up to the 3 or 4 seed easily. But like, they're 3 games out of the 3 seed right now, both of those teams, which is bananas. But despite their injury issues on both sides, I just roll them out as serious like contenders in the East now with this start. Like, they have
The Bucks and the Sixers?
Yeah. Like, I just don't. I'm out. Like, the Bucks, the supporting cast of the Bucks, we've seen them twice now. Like, Brook Lopez, Connaughton, all those guys, they're throwing, Jackson Jr. into, like, he's terrible. Like, AJ Green, like, great. Like, he can't defend. It's just like they don't. And
AJ Green can shoot that thing.
He can shoot. But
I agree with you about the Bucks, but like the Sixers haven't had their three best players take the court yet, like at one time.
But how often is that going to happen though? Like
Yeah,
all year
that also
long.
just, like, that just happens to the Sixers, right? Like I feel like
Right.
there was like 2 seasons ago we were saying the same thing. It was like, oh, once they get their players out there, they're gonna be so good. And then like their actual team played like 15 games and they never figured out how to play together. So yeah, I think I'm with B-Rob. I'm loving this.
I think that there's a version of the Sixers that just look a lot different. Like right now, they have Kelly Oubre trying to do too much. They've got Caleb Martin trying to do too much.
Andre Drummond's playing 30 minutes a game.
They've barely had Paul George. Drummond is playing far too many minutes per game. Yabu's been one of their best
They
players.
need to start Yabu. That's what they need to do. Is
But,
start in the
like,
second half tonight.
But they just once Embiid gets back, everybody gets pushed down a rung. Everything's easier for Oubre, for Martin. They're going to be far more efficient, presumably in different roles. I just think everything makes more sense when he comes back. And then for the Bucks, it's like things are bad right now. Middleton will fix some things. They will start to, like, they've played the Celtics twice already. They've had a tough schedule. They are still in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. And I think part of it is they'll get better from here, but like the damage right now that's being done can be so tough to come back from because players start to not trust the coaching staff. Like players start to get frustrated with everything. And then it's hard to get everybody back on the same page. They're 2-8 right now. Giannis is not used to this. Giannis is used to being on great teams that win a ton of regular season games. And
When's the last time he was under 500? Like 2015 or something like that, probably. Like
yeah, he's already had a couple of quotes after games that are just like, "Oh wow, Giannis is kind of fed up with this already." And I don't know if that means he's fed up with the organization, he's fed up with his situation, or he's just like tired of the losing right now. But the Giannis situation there is absolutely worth watching because like it's a bad situation. I don't know if Doc Rivers is the coach for them, and they're just an old, tired team and play like an old, tired team with young guys who aren't quite ready to step in for the minutes that they're needed for.
it's kind of I don't know.
The one team.
Go ahead, Packard.
B-Rob, me and you have been.
No, we're all over each other tonight. I know.
Maybe it's because you're.
It's a lag. We have like a little lag.
Promise I'll say nice things about Neemi. You know. Before we get to the segments of the show, I forgot to say this earlier. If you're watching this on the CLNS YouTube page, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable and subscribe today. We got podcasts for you every single day, Monday through Friday. You can become a kid. You can become a god. You can become a legend. And I know the next Poddable postgame show, Joshua B is going to give me the what for not giving Neemi enough praise. But I think we'll see as we get to moments of the week that I'm fair and I'm balanced. And so it is that time. Moment of the week. This past week, you guys can check this. My first nomination, and this has been on the Google Doc, the infamous Google Doc that I'm sure Jay King has not read, even though I sent him a direct link. My number one nomination was
I did read it.
Keita.
I prepared for this podcast.
Neemias Queta against the Warriors was my first nomination for moment of the week. He had so absolutely electric moments. The Garden was going crazy. Like that was the first thing I thought of putting together nominations for moment of the week. And so I'm unless anyone has any other nominations, the floor is open for other possible moments of the week after these last 4 games.
I've got one very much not serious one, but there's just nothing for me better than Tatum backing down Dame flopping wildly. And it felt like everyone in the arena just stopped to kind of chuckle at it for a moment. And then Tatum put up a shot, and I think he missed it and then got it back and put up a 3, but it was like, I love a good flop, especially I was seeing some Bucks fans online being like like, oh, now Drew Holiday flops because he plays for the Celtics. And I was like, since when did the Celtics flop? And then for Dame to then do it immediately, I was like, this is perfect. This is what I needed in this moment. So it was good.
The Celtics don't have a lot of floppers right now
No.
at all.
Especially not Drew. Drew refuses to flop. Drew doesn't go to the floor.
They're a pretty ethical team. They don't flop on either end very much.
Yeah, who's like the
Probably
biggest flopper on the
as much
team?
as they should.
I couldn't even name, like, who would you guys say does a little flop? Like, I couldn't even say anyone has like even a semi reputation for it.
If anything, Tatum is like a complainer about not getting whistles, but he doesn't really try to sell it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
the only
pissed
one-
today after they didn't call Giannis for stepping into his landing space.
As he should be.
I too was pissed.
Because he said it could have been like a 6-week injury and there are some calls you can't miss, and then went on Twitter, quote tweeted the video of it. He was not happy at all about that. Tatum barely missed moment of the week when he had a chance to beat the Nets in regulation at the end of that game. I'm going to give his stop on Cam Thomas though in overtime of that game. I thought that was just fantastic defensive possession. And during that game, like Joe rarely criticizes a player, and he didn't really criticize Tatum about that game, but he said that Tatum started to defend at halftime or in the second half, basically saying, yeah, he didn't bring it at the start. That was part of the reason why we started so flat. We need him to be better than that defensively. And sure enough, in overtime, he switches out onto Cam Thomas, who had 31 points in the game. And even though he's a total chucker and loves shooting bad percentage shots, he makes a lot of tough ones. And Tatum didn't even really let him get off a tough shot. He forced him into just some absolute nonsense that had no chance of going in the hoop. So I'll give Tatum the moment of the week. My moment of the week. Do we have different ones, or do we settle on the same one? Are these just nominations right now?
I think we're supposed
I don't know the rules
This
here.
is the nomination. This is the nomination period, and we're supposed to settle on the
Okay.
official still Poddable moment.
Okay, that'll be
I like that
my
one.
second nomination.
I also thought the Tatum dunk to when they were going for the 2-for-1 at the end of regulation. I just love that play. That feels like
Yeah.
it's been in the Celtics. Like that's a go-to thing. That just feels like it works every time, and it feels like it shouldn't. Because like you saw Tatum set up on the opposing free throw line. Everyone who's watched the Celtics game over the past like 8 years knew that exact play was coming. And it feels like you should try to do something, but it's just awesome. Just that much of a running start that results in a dunk is very cool. So that was my only other possible nomination here. B-Rob, you can either present a nomination yourself or be the decider for what moment of the week is.
Well,
I'll
we
give
got
you
to
that
vote.
now.
We got to vote. I haven't voted yet. I just nominated something.
I was just going to give the whole vote to B-Rob. It's
Everyone's gonna vote for themselves, and I get to
B-Rob
decide.
matters more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't think we've given Tatum enough coverage on this podcast in general for how good he's been to start the season. So I like the double nominations from you boys on that front. And yeah, give me the dunk play. That was just such a crisp.
Yeah, that's my vote too.
That like Drew,
If I
like,
have one.
yeah, like that was just a thing of beauty.
And it was just perfect timing. Like you have to have perfect timing on that play. There were 33.7 seconds left when they started that play. So you basically have to score within 3 seconds to give yourself a 2-for-1. And they scored in 2.3 seconds and found a dunk. And so Drew Holiday, he flashed out to get the ball. And as he's doing that, he hasn't even caught the ball yet. And Tatum's already started his cut. And then Drew feeds him with a nice pass. It's just like the precise timing that was needed on the pass to the inbounds pass to Drew, and then the cut, all of it to work out, and then Tatum to finish in traffic with a dunk. That was probably the most beautiful play of the year.
Wow, beautiful play of the year. I mean, I just want the record to show that everyone else voted for Tatum. If I got a vote, I would have voted for Neemi, but that's just me. Um, so this is just how the things work. Sometimes on one side of the ledger, sometimes on the other side of the ledger. Uh, let's go to my favorite segment of the week, and that comes from just thing shit Joe Mazzulla says. That's a very whimsical music. I like that there. Jay and B Rob, you guys have been at all the kind of pressers. So, but Sean highlighted this one, which was my favorite moment of the week. It was Joe being asked about Jaylen's injury, and the question was, "Have you been able to talk to him about the injury?" And Mazzulla said, "I talk to him every day." What were those conversations like? We both kind of mumble when we talk, and we just shake hands and move on. Did he happen to mumble about his hip at all? Couldn't understand him. It was just a great moment from Joe.
Just classic Joe behavior.
Yeah, that was.
The two reporters did not like it.
Let's make this. Make your blood boil.
I prefer that he'd give us some information.
It's 3 or 4 games.
But he delivered his non-answer in comedic fashion, so
he's gotten better at that.
He gave like a more textbook non-answer afterwards, right? Like I feel like there was a follow-up, and he gave like a more normal, not Joe Mazzulla-esque non-answer of like, he's working really hard to get back, not sure when he will be, something like that. But I love we both mumble a lot. I couldn't understand him.
It was just quick. It was so quick. It was, and then the follow-up was about something else too, and he asked it was about Jaylen too, and he asked it was whether the issue was lingering, and he said the mumble or the injury.
Got him.
Nice. It was good Joe comedy.
Any other nuggets from Joe pre-game, Joe post-game this week? Anything stick out?
Today,
transcribe here.
Today he brought out the exact expected points that the Bucks had in the first half. I think he wanted to let everyone know that they were fortunate to be ahead at halftime, and that the Celtics probably didn't play as badly as everybody might have thought watching them. I think that was pretty much his lone goal of sharing that to us. So that was fun.
Joe's not going to deliver us a money quote after every single game or every single practice, and so with the mumbling, with the high comedy, the quickness there, I think we have to give him credit. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up about this week in Celtics basketball before we wrap this show up?
I've got something ready. Hold on, I just want to do this. All right, so for the ombudsman section, I just want to quickly point out that this is maybe the best Jam Packard background we've seen, and of course, it's when you're not at home at all. Just want to put that out there. That's really great.
There will be background improvements. I ordered some background. I'm going to do some shifting around. Expecting new background this week.
My wife, who married me and therefore knows what nonsense is like, and she can appreciate nonsense, was like, wow. She saw some of our clips on Instagram. She's like, wow, Packard's background is tough. And she married me, Packard. So know that really hurts.
Yeah.
Listen, the holidays are coming up, so maybe we can get some stuff for Packard to decorate the new spot. I look forward to seeing what you already have in the.
I looked into getting a neon light thing like Coley and True Withers have for us. They're kind of expensive though, but if we want to put some podcast money into it, I'm in.
I just let's tune in post game show.
If any of the listeners want to give us a hookup on neon lights, neon still Poddable logo lights. That would be dope. Then Packard won't have to have his
or an interior decorator for Packard. Anything, anyone's out there.
If someone wants to get me
listeners.
a better apartment in Philadelphia, I'm also open to that. If you're a local Philly realtor, I'm trying to make some improvements. Tune into the post-game show on Tuesday. Look at that. I'm sure we can reevaluate that. And if we need to go neon sign after that, I'm open to it. We appreciate everyone who's listening here on the free show. Again, if you want more Still Poddable, and you probably should, because it's a good time listening to us talk about the basketball of the Boston Celtics. We are the best Celtics podcast. Go to patreon.com/Still Poddable. If you do subscribe, you'll get access to J-Mail, where Jay King is answering any questions that come in on the voicemail line.
people got to ask questions. You got to have questions in there.
Well, that's why I was trying to give him the number before I was so rudely interrupted. That number is
I'm stressing it. We need your questions.
If only I could tell the people the phone number, which is 617-684-5965. 617-684-5965. Jay just wants to answer your questions, so call him in. You could ask him about anything. It can be basketball, but you know what? My favorite J-Mail segments are where you ask him about stuff that's not about basketball, or when you get him to peel behind the curtain of what it's like to be a Celtics beat reporter. So call that number, 617-684-5965. We want more J-Mail. J-Mail is a great segment on the Still Poddable Patreon. To everyone who does subscribe to the Patreons, the kids, the gods, and the legends, we very much appreciate it. And we'll be back for another full week of Boston Celtics basketball, covering the cup, covering the non-cup. It's a cupper, and we're going to be there. I'll get a new background, and everything will be fantastic. We appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of Still Poddable.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable. The Boston Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh, yeah.
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.